Okay, excellent. We might actually get started and we will just let other people to enter as they arrive. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our exclusive stakeholder briefing session on the American Express Backing International Small Restaurants Grant Program. My name is Liz Joldeski. I'm the Executive Officer with Main Street Australia, and it's my absolute pleasure as the local partner with American Express and the International Downtown Association to be presenting this overview of this exciting new program to you all. Before I continue, just a little bit of, well, firstly, importantly, I'd like to do an acknowledgement. Main Street Australia acknowledges the traditional custodians of lands all across Australia, and I'm coming to you from the lands of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. The usual housekeeping with Zoom. If you could please just remain on mute unless you're speaking. Also, just to let you know, we are recording the session this afternoon, as we know that many of our stakeholders are busy and unable to attend the live the live session. So we will be recording it and then sharing it more broadly with our members and stakeholders after today's session. I'd also like to acknowledge that we've got some of our fantastic committee members on the Zoom with us today. We have Georgina Picolis, our Main Street Australia's president. I'll get you to wave. Hi, Georgie. And Troy Stutchbury, our Vice President, and Chinsia Kriya, our Secretary. Welcome to you all. So on to today's presentation. We'll be providing you with a comprehensive overview of the American Express Backing International Small Restaurants Program. We'll go over the application process, the grant criteria, and how the program is very specifically seeking to support restaurants that are operated by underrepresented and or economically vulnerable members of our communities. And we all know that there are a lot of small businesses, and particularly small businesses in the restaurant industry, that are doing it really tough at the moment. So this funding boost and this American Express grant program could not come at a better time, we believe. So this is your chance to ask any questions and to get more detail on the grant. So please do use the chat function, and please do pop in any questions that you might have in the chat. I am going to be going through some slides, and you might find that some of your questions will get answered throughout the presentation, but we'll finish with the Q&A at the end, and just to do a bit of a wrap up, and I'll make sure that we've answered all of your queries. So let's get on with it. So on to slide 2, thank you. So just with the program, many of you on the Zoom would know that it was launched last week, and it's called the American Express Backing International Small Restaurants program. This is actually an expansion of the grant program, which has been in place for 2 years now. If I could just ask you to go on mute, I'll just mute I love that power. Just back to the presentation, it has been in place, the grant program has been in place for 2 years for restaurant venues in Sydney, and this year we're absolutely thrilled that Melbourne restaurants are now able to apply. So in its first 2 years in Australia, Backing International Small Restaurants provided 240,000 Australian dollars in financial support. And the program was founded by American Express, and it was founded to support small businesses and restaurants through those challenges that dining venues in particular are facing in the current economic climate, and is aiming to give them the boost that they very much need. So the program is supported by the International Downtown Association in the United States, and the IDA is managing the program globally. And Main Street Australia is very honoured to be the local partner. So we're supporting the program in Australia. And combined, the three of us, the IDA, American Express, and Main Street Australia, we are all aligned and all working together to support small businesses on our main streets, high streets, and cities. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so from this slide, you can see the program is truly international. And in 2022, the program granted a total of $375,000 US, and that went to 36 small independent restaurants all around the world. And in 2023, the program increased its total awards to $435,000 US across 35 restaurants. Now, from this slide, you can see the reach for the 2024 program. And in 2024, Amex is going to be providing funding across 9 cities. So in the UK, it's London plus Manchester this year. In Australia, it's Sydney plus Melbourne this year. In Mexico, it's Mexico City. In Canada, it's Montreal and Toronto. And in Japan, it's Osaka and Tokyo. Next slide, thank you. And just a bit more detail now about the grant program. So what's in it, and what's in it for our small business restaurants in Sydney and Melbourne? So each restaurant, that's 10 in total, will get 21,500 Australian dollars. Now, the grant is for independent small restaurants. Now, in terms of what the grant funding can be used for, it is quite broad. So it should go towards supporting critical business needs. It's definitely not for day-to-day operating expenses like salaries or rent or loans or stock purchases, but more for, upgrades or, whether it's investment in new technology, or whether it's renovations or upgrading existing facilities. Or maybe it's, adding a parklet and outdoor dining for the restaurant premises. So they're the types of activities and projects that the grant can go towards. Also, it should be noted that the funds have to be spent within a 4-month period by the end of November 2024. So once we go through the closing process for applications and then the evaluations and the announcement, the restaurant will have 4 months to commence, implement and finish their project. I should also mention that there's so much in it for small restaurants and small businesses beyond just the funds, which are obviously considerable and will give such a boost, such a much needed boost to restaurants. But the other benefits are, the leverage and the marketing and the public relations that these restaurants will be able to gain through coverage with American Express and through Main Street Australia. So definitely lots of benefits and lots of advantages for the restaurants that are fortunate enough to get the funds. Love to hear from you in terms of what you think the use of funds should be for, and what you're hearing small restaurants need, or what would be most impactful. Or indeed, if you're a small restaurant yourself on the call, let us know, what do you most need the funds for in this present time. And the other thing I'd like to emphasize on this slide, and just looking at questions that we've been getting here, is the type of restaurant. So it has to be a restaurant, cafe or pub. They need to have food service. So it's definitely not for any restaurants that don't provide food service. Okay, next slide, thank you. And we will now have a look at a bit more detail about the eligibility criteria. So the businesses have to be located within Greater Sydney or Greater Melbourne. So that's inner Sydney and inner Melbourne, and outer Sydney and outer Melbourne. If you have any queries with those boundaries, please contact us and let us know. But that's pretty straightforward. The restaurant has to be currently open, and it must already be in operation, and it must have a physical brick and mortar location and storefront in either Melbourne or Sydney. So it's not for digital only businesses. They're not eligible, and digital includes online and application based businesses. So they're not eligible. They must be a small independently owned restaurant, cafe, bar or pub. As I said, with food offering. They can't be part of a franchise with more than 5 locations. So again, that's emphasizing that this grant is for those smaller, more independent, most often family-run businesses that are more in need of these types of funds. Another criteria is that the business has to have annual revenue below $2 million for the 23 financial year. And just to let you know that the restaurant doesn't have to have American Express to be considered for the grant, but it certainly would be considered as one of the criteria. Next slide. So on this slide, we've got more detail around how the applications will be evaluated. So the International Downtown Association in Washington will be evaluating the applications. So that's all of the applications that come in from Australia. They will be making the recommendation. Main Street Australia will be supporting them in that. The final decision will be with American Express. And these are the criteria that will be taken into account. What contribution will your project have for your broader community? And, what impact will it make on your neighbourhood identity, or will it improve and strengthen community engagement? So the use of funds and the impact that it has on the restaurant also has to be very well articulated. And I've mentioned this, the third dot point there is owners or restaurants that are operated by underrepresented members of the community will be given greater or special consideration. So, for instance, if you are a restaurant owner with a called, migrant background, or if you represent LGBT Q plus communities, you should definitely apply. And that's definitely the type of small businesses that are encouraged to apply. And make sure you really, share that story about any challenges that you faced. And really describe your own personal story and your journey to being a restaurateur. Next slide, please. We'll just have a look at the program timeline. So applications are currently open, as you all know. They're closing on the 31st of May, and that's at 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And you're probably saying, that's a really weird closing time, but that's coinciding with the American global closing time, which is actually, better get this right, the day before, the 30th of May at 12 p.m. So that's 12 p.m. American time on the 30th, but in Australia, applications will close on May the 31st at 2 p.m. And then following that, Main Street Australia, in conjunction with the IDA, will be making those first assessments and any outreach to finalists if we need to collect any additional documentation or any additional information, if we need to clarify any points. And then in July, by July, the successful restaurants should be notified and announced. They will be announced by American Express. And then August is when your projects can commence. So that's when the announcement will be made in July, and then you'll have August, September, October, and November to complete your projects. And then they should all be completed and finished by December. Next slide, thank you. Just some points around reporting and documentation. You will need to submit expenses. So make sure you keep your expenses and all of your receipts and invoices. You'll need to submit those for reporting and for reimbursement. For those successful grant recipients, you will actually get 2/3 of the grant issued upon award and upon announcement, and then you'll get the final third issued to you at the end once you have submitted all of the receipts and data and information. So you'll be working with Main Street Australia and the IDA to collect data and to provide information during all of the grant implementation. So Main Street Australia, as the local partner, will be checking in with those 10 recipients just to make sure it's all on track and all within time. And I guess the other important point to note there is make sure you keep a track of how this grant is going to be helping your business, and any data and any photos or stories around how those changes are going to illustrate the impact of the grant for yourself as a business and also for your community. Next slide, thank you. We'll now have a look at previous grant recipients. of this Amex grant program. And this is a fantastic social enterprise restaurant in Sydney called Kabul Social. And they serve Afghan street food, and it's cooked by displaced refugees. And they're a phenomenal business. If you get a chance, have a look at their website. They've got a concept called Plate It Forward. So they're very committed to creating equal opportunity around the table, and they employ and train people that are seeking asylum to create long-term career and employment opportunities through food. So what a fantastic merging of business and, community and social impacts. And the restaurant actually donates 2 meals to those in need for every 1 meal sold. And just on the next slide, we've got a quote from the social enterprise owner, Sean Christie David, just talking to the impact of the grant to their business. And they actually used it to develop a new digital phone application. And it gave them and their customers the ability to track the impact that they're having with each meal that they provide. So it's been phenomenal for their business, and very much appreciated by the business and everybody else that they serve. So a really fantastic example. If we go to the next slide now, I guess the final point that we'd like to make to all of you on the call today, and all of you that might be watching this video, please help us to spread the word. So we've still got plenty of time. We've got up until the 30th of May. So there's still, as if I get my maths right, I think around 5 weeks to go. So get more information. There's links here, and I think we've put the links as well in the chat. You can go via our webpage on Main Street Australia's website page, or you can go directly to the In-Town Downtown Associations page. The application form is via the International Downtown Association's website page. It's very straightforward. I think it's only half a dozen or so questions, so really simple and easy to apply. So get more information there. Help us spread the word. We have a media kit that you can download, and please post about it. Post about it on your socials, on Insta, Facebook, or even LinkedIn. And then finally, I'm sure all of you have one, or if you're anything like me, 10 favorite local restaurants. So next time you're there and you're having your almond latte, or your chai cappuccino, or your coffee of choice, or having your favorite pub meal, make sure you tell the owners about this program, and don't leave without sending them the link. You can access that direct link to the application form there. And what I've done is I've actually saved it to my mobile phone. So just in terms of sharing it with people, just share it easily through your mobile phone via email or text. So we want to get as many applications as possible in for the Australian, small restaurants in Sydney and Melbourne. So with that, that's the grant program. Just the final slide. I would just like to summarise the presentation today. And on behalf of American Express and the International Downtown Association, I just wanted to emphasise how important this program is, because it is going to provide much needed funding for improvements for long-term sustainability. And so this is going to help restaurant owners so that they can focus more on serving their customers and even, building those community connections. And these are really, vital aspects of running a small business. So if you're an owner, or an owner of a small restaurant who's looking to boost their business and make more of a positive impact on your community, this is your opportunity. Get those applications in, make those positive changes to your restaurants. We look forward to receiving your applications, and we look forward to seeing the impact that these grants will make. Thank you so much for your time today. In closing, I will just go and have a look and see if there are any questions in the chat. Thank you for the heads up. Could it be used for marketing, promotion, or a special event? That's a great question. So Janelle, thank you for the question. So from the FAQs and from what I can see from previous years, it can't be used for that purpose. It has to be directly for improvements to the business. So either for, physical, infrastructure type upgrades or soft infrastructure type investments. But what I'll do is I will take that offline and I can come back and I can confirm that for you. But my understanding is that that's a no. Can you please, another question from Rosie, can you please confirm that it's for all Melbourne Metro? I'm located in Cardinia Shire. Can our restaurants please apply? Yes, the answer is yes. If it's within the Melbourne metro boundaries, you can absolutely apply. So that's a yes. Yeah, thank you, Georgie, for confirming what the funding can be used for: enhancing digital capabilities, building or refreshing dining spaces, making improvements. Yeah, so that's a no to events and any activations in that regard. What else? Interested in finding out what suburbs are included in Greater Sydney, please. Absolutely. So look, we actually have the map with the boundaries. So what we can do is we will share those with you all. We will get your emails and we will share that the boundary maps with you. And we might pop that up on our website as well. It seems we're getting a lot of questions about the boundaries. Another question from Ingrid: is there a max seating or minimum seating? I don't believe so. No, I don't believe so. So if you look at the eligibility criteria, it's more around the revenue. So the annual revenue can't be more than 2 million, can't be part of a franchise with more than 5 businesses, and it must have a physical bricks and mortar. So nothing in terms of seating numbers within the criteria. Okay. Oh, thank you, Joyce, for sharing the metro municipalities. Yeah, as I said, we will follow up and we will provide the boundary maps for Greater Melbourne and Greater Sydney. But pretty much anything that's not defined as a regional or rural shire or council is included in that definition. So inner and outer suburbs of both Sydney and Melbourne are all included in that definition and are able to apply. There's one more message. Yep, thanks for the update. Okay, you're more than welcome, Lisa. And yeah, great spot to finish. Thank you again to everyone for joining us on the call. Please share the information far and wide. And yeah, we look forward to coming back to all of our members, stakeholders, to share the announcements. Well, that will actually come via American Express, but we look forward to sharing the outcomes of this project over the next few months. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Bye for now.